Good morning. Congratulations on being here first thing in the morning. Now, you all know that Jack Madden session's going on right now, right? It's in the other room. Okay. Well, welcome. My name's Randy Cook. I'm with FS Logics. And today we're going to just have some fun with a kind of a science project that we've been working on, and share our results with you here. I've got Jeremy and Brian with me here too at the front. They're both my compadres there. And we're the techie guys, so forgive any non-marketing professionalness and all that kind of stuff. All right, so we were sitting around thinking we need to come up with a name for this, and somebody suggested Agent 47, and we thought that sounds good, but none of, and so we started using it, and nobody knew that it actually was something. Anybody know what Agent 47 is? Heard of it? Okay, good. All right. It's not too bad. It's some character in the video game Hitman or something like that. Yeah, not the most reputable character, so we probably wouldn't have chosen that, but. All right, so what this project is it's an experiment to leverage sync and share technologies to do some interesting stuff. Our background's in software delivery management. We all worked at Altiris previously. So we thought, well, we'll just mess with that. The next thing we'll talk about is why. We'll do a demo. The demo will probably be the most interesting part of the whole thing. And we'll talk about how we're doing our stuff, how it's actually working. And then we'll share with you some of the things that we've learned from this experiment. And then we'll have an official Q&A, but feel free during the presentation to raise your hand. That's not a problem. We do have a mic that's wandering that we can use as well. Okay. So what it is, we've implemented a rudimentary software delivery system, software inventory system, command execution with status that's returned back to the administrator. And we did this with spit and baling wire pretty much, and also some C#, and we're using Box Sync and Share. We looked at Dropbox as well as some of the other ones. We ended up using Box. We'll talk about why a little bit later. Nothing super important, but just a couple of things. And this is, like I said, an experiment. I'd like to get some feedback from you if you think it's interesting. If people are interested in it, we may, throw it up on the open source or something like that if people like it. All right. Okay, so why are we doing this? Well, these sync and share infrastructures are pretty interesting. So they're fairly scalable in some ways, and they handle some of these disconnected scenarios well. If somebody's unplugged, it's not a big deal. The stuff will sync when they plug back in. So it kind of has some advantages that way. It's very simple. All it is just syncing files, and that's all we're leveraging is just that functionality. And plus, we're geeks and we just like doing this kind of stuff. So that's why. All right. So let's jump into the demo here. All right, so what I've got here is I'm going to be using my main laptop as kind of the control center for this thing, and then I've got two VMs that each represent two different box users. And that's their usernames right there. so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the installation of this. So I'm going to take you through the whole thing from top to bottom, mostly because there's not a lot to it and it won't take very long. I've got a zip file that's right here, and the first thing I do is just extract that, and I'm going to put that in the root of my Dropbox folder, or box, sorry. Okay, installation is complete. So if I come into this folder, here's the admin directory, and the thing that's interesting right here is we'll start up the administrative console. First thing it's going to do is have me authenticate. And here is the GUI that we've spent so much time and effort on. This is the world's best GUI ever written by a kernel developer. And we really believe that icons are for pansies and stuff. So, you know, this is what you see is what you get. So, all right. So I'll give you a quick tour of the admin tool here. The first thing I've got is a page where I can manage the users. These are all the systems that are all of the users that are participating in the system, and I'll add some people here in a second. I've got a software delivery tab. Here are some of the predefined jobs that we've got for our demonstration, and we'll be working with those a little bit later. And then we also have the ability to execute commands besides deploy software, and we'll show you some of those, and we'll actually walk through creating one of those as well. And then you have an inventory page which shows all of the inventory for the people participating in the system. All right, so let's add some users here. The nice thing about this demo is we used really short usernames for convenience. What did I do, Brian? Any idea?
Relaunch the admin.
All right. The thing that's interesting is that demo has worked flawlessly.
That's the way it happens.
It is amazing how that works. I freely admit that this is spit and baling wire, but it does work, I promise. Oh, well, we'll see if that actually. Okay. This demo actually does really depend on decent network connectivity, and it seemed to be pretty good before I started, so hopefully that's going to work for us. All right, so as on the administrative side, that's all that I needed to do. So what's happened here is that when I put that username in, a folder was created on the local machine in my box files directory, as well as there was one created in the web, and there was a share initiated for that to that user. So if I come in here and go to the box website, I should see an invitation, and I just say I'm going to go ahead and sync that. And we'll do the same thing over here. All right. Now the last thing that I need to do to enroll this machine is I actually have to launch the little agent that we've got. So, which is agent 47. And it's just a little tool tray guide pops up right down here. We'll talk more about what his responsibilities are a little bit later. All right. Okay, so the agent's running. We've now established a shared folder between each of these users and the administrative machine, which is me. And now we can actually do something interesting with this. So let's get an inventory. So here's all the different jobs, software delivery jobs that I can do. We'll start a scheduled inventory one. We'll assign it to both users. And what you should see here is pretty soon you'll see a little syncing action going on the box thing there. And then you'll see these big, ugly command prompts running. And that means that we're working. So the scheduled inventory has now executed correctly or successfully. That status is synced back to this machine. So I can actually right-click on this and I can view the results of that. And it shows me that the result 0 is good. And in the background, you can see that just what flashed there was the actual inventory running. And what that did is it actually, we're leveraging the Windows scheduler. So it ran a command to just insert the inventory to run every 1 minute. So we'll just, every once in a while, you'll see that kind of popping up, and that's what we expect to see. So let's see if we got some inventory sync back. We do. So if we look at one of these, here's just a real basic inventory. It's just a dump of the add remove programs, basically. And it just shows up in here, and we can kind of see what's on that machine. All right. Any questions so far? Pretty simple. Let's do something a little bit more interesting. Let's deploy some software. So if I look at this, here's what the command is. We're going to run MSI exec, and here are the command options. We've got an Orca MSI that we're going to deliver. That's actually part of the payload for this job. So we'll go ahead and assign that. You can see the MSI is syncing right now, so we should see some status here in a second. Fast internet in these conference places. Okay, so that guy's done. We can actually run that if we want to at this point. We can come back here, look at the status on this, and see if we got one of them back. And there's the second one. All right. Pretty simple stuff. Let's see if we got an inventory back yet that's got the, it might not yet. Yep, doesn't show Orca yet. I did see it just flash, so it should just show up here in a second. There we go. And there's Orca shows up. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually run this remove Orca command for one of them. Let's take it off of machine number 3. All right, well, you get the idea there. So one more, let's see, well, the next demo we wanted to do is we've got some semantic virtualization stuff installed here. If I bring up the admin tool, you can see there's nothing in here. Let's go ahead and let's do something interesting. We'll deploy PuTTY virtualized. Assign it to a couple of users here. And again, this is real simple because all we're doing is just delivering any kind of payload and then running a command line. So for the semantic virtualization, all you do is deliver a package and you run a command line to do an import and activate, and it'll show up. Yeah?
So does this product integrate with Active Directory at all, or do you have to go in and build each one of these accounts in addition to what you've already built?
So the question was, does it integrate with Active Directory at all? Or do you have to build an account manually? And right now you have to build that manually because it's just actually the box user account. So I imagine there's some sync and shares that from companies that actually do have that integration. And if you're using those products to do the sync and share, then you'd be able to do it a little bit differently, just based on Active Directory. But right now this is just, could be anybody on the internet, basically. Yeah. The question was, are these running under system context or user context? These are all running under the user context. So this install would require admin rights and would have to do that. We started out thinking about writing a service for this, but we just didn't do it to start with. But that's what you'd probably need to do to make it real. And you do need admin rights as well to do the software semantic virtualization stuff too. So you can see that this application is now shown up here, and if I look inside here, there's the package. I can do the deactivate stuff here, or activate just like I normally would be able to. All right. Let's take a look at the inventory nowadays and see what it's showing up here. Okay, on this guy we should have both PuTTY and Orca, which we do. And this one should just show PuTTY. Yep. All right. One last thing I wanted to show you is the command execution here. This one simply just does a deactivate for that virtual package, and we'll go ahead and assign that out.
Randy?
Yeah.
How much of it is insert Google Drive, insert Dropbox, etc.
Okay.
Fairly easily, or is it pretty specific?
This is pretty generic. So the implementation that we've got right now does code to the Box APIs, and we'll get into details on that in a second and talk about which ones we're actually using. But the idea is that you could just shove any kind of sync and share under this and make it work pretty easily.
Even a heterogeneous mix within your organization, you could have users on different systems.
That's totally true. Yeah. So, the agent doesn't care how that stuff shows up. You just tell it what directory to be watching changes for, and it can be whichever. You could be FTP in the stuff there if you wanted to. The admin tool is the thing that actually uses the APIs, but we'll get to that in a second. We plan anything for Mac. Yeah, I mean, this is totally applicable to Mac, I think, and any other platform. And, it is just super simple. It's not a big deal. So, if this goes anywhere, if it turns out that there's some interest in this and it moves forward, I could see Mac coming in pretty easily, yeah. All right. So there's our execute or our deactivate executed. The inventory should now show that putty's gone, and it does. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually go through the gory details of how each step through this whole process, and we'll show you how that works. So we'll create a new command, and we'll just call this is going to be, we're just going to do a dir command, and here we're going to run cmd.exe. Oh, sorry. I love it. They call it System32, even though it's a 64-bit system. That's beautiful. /c dir, right? Does that look right, Jeremy? Yeah. Okay. This add button right here is where I could add any kind of payload that I needed to deliver as well in the meantime. Since there's nothing here, we're just going to click OK. All right, so what that has done, since I did that, let's look at the file system. I'll show you what's happening here. Underneath my box account file system location, I've got this is the directory where all the commands are that are defined on the system. If I look in here, I see this task.xml that's been created. We can bring that up and take a look at it. Just real simple. This is what you're supposed to do. And that's all that's happened since I've created that. So now what I need to do is assign that to a user. So I'll do this. And what's happening now is that there's been a sharing request initiated on that directory that I showed you that will go and share that folder to each of these users. We have them set up to auto-approve share requests, and so it'll automatically come up and sync that. So if we take a look on this side, we'll show you what the agent structure looks like over here. Here are the commands that have been shared with this guy, and here's the dir command. And here's some stuff that's been created by the client. So the task XML, of course, is just the same one that was on the other side, right? Okay. And these two files are just files that are used for the client to be able to track state. There's nothing really interesting in those. But if I look at the results file here, again, this is just some XML. And here is what's being sent back And again, the client is just creating a file and relying on the sync and share to move this back to the admin side. So if I look over here, let's see, I'm going to need to come down to users. Here is the directory structure that's shared with the agent, and here's my copy of the dir command output. So the admin utility simply just reads that XML from there and shows it to me. Pretty sophisticated stuff. Let's see. There's one other thing that's interesting. Let me show you. On the for the agent itself, let's see. There's this trace log file, and this is just a log file that is kept track. And in this is you just got all the different things that the agent is doing. He just keeps a rolling log of that. So you can look in here and see if there's any kind of exceptions that were thrown with any particular applications you tried to run or commands or whatever. It gives you a good idea. You can use that for troubleshooting on the admin side. All right, any questions on the demo? Yeah?
Can the client application be run as a service, or do you have to be logged in as a user and have that running on the desktop?
So the question is, does the client process, can it be run as a service, or does it need to be run as a user? Right now, it's just running as the user. That's something that we would want to change, I think, in the future, is to be able to run it as a service, particularly in the case where the user doesn't have admin rights to be able to do some of these different things. That, of course, would require us to elevate on install to be able to do that. But yeah, I think that'd be something that'd be interesting. All right. Is that Mr. Jones over there? Hey, how are you? All right. Let's jump back into the presentation here. Okay. So these are the different components, and we kind of ran through those mostly. We use the admin console its tasks are to manage users, assign tasks, view results. Its name is agent 47. It's in the admin.exe. The client agent, we showed you that. We're using the sync and share, the Box v2 API. Let me talk a little bit about the Box API. We really only, the functions that we need from the API are to do the sharing and the authentication. So Box is the only one that we found in our quick look that actually provided a share API. Dropbox and the Microsoft SkyDrive, they had APIs for all this other kind of stuff, pretty rich APIs, but for some reason they don't have a share API, which is kind of an interesting thing. But we obviously need that for our admin tool to work. And other than that, we're just using them for the copying of the files. I showed you the directory structure already. Basically, it's nice because it's just an unzip, and you've got everything set up, ready to go. We looked at the client directory structure. We went through the actual flow for how this stuff works. Okay, so we're to our what have we learned slide. We learned pretty early on that we may not want to trust these sync and share applications very, very much with our data. We found out, early on what we wanted to do was we wanted to have one XML file, and the administrator would put their stuff in there, and then the client would rewrite it with the status. And we found out very quickly, as soon as we started doing that, the sync and share broke. And so all of a sudden, it couldn't handle that a file got created on one side, updated on another side, even though it was, significantly, computer time, significantly different computer time. It couldn't figure out how to sync that stuff, and so it would just throw its hands up and quit. So that's where we decided to do the results in a different XML file, and we just kind of found that out through experimentation. But that did not give me good feelings about sync and share, I got to tell you. Although I've been using Dropbox for a while and haven't had any major problems yet, but I'd just say keep a backup. We talked about the lack of a share API. The authentication for this is kind of interesting. So they provide a web authentication. So what we had to do is we actually had to do some interesting stuff where we'd spawn the web authentication, which you saw, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some information that was returned that was the actual token or something like that. We'd scarf that off of the URL that came back, and then we'd use that in our application from then on, and that seemed to work pretty well. We'd love to see some native authentication APIs. So some other things that we started thinking about is, we use this in this experiment to do some of the basic software delivery, inventory kind of stuff, but this kind of approach could be used for a bunch of different things. The sync and share does have some very nice properties, and if your application needs those kind of things, this is a very simple way to develop some stuff that could be fairly interesting. Nice thing about it is you're taking advantage of the very large scalability. Some of the things that we didn't test yet were, how many shares you can do and manage. If you're just one user that's doing stuff, that seems to work pretty well. What happens when you get, 1,000 users sharing something? We'll see. Could be interesting that way. So we thought when we started this thing, the initial thought was this would be cool for a single user to be able to keep all of their applications in sync as well as their data. You're using sync and share for data. Why can't we put applications in there? Why can't we put some of our profile stuff in there? That kind of stuff. All those things could be pretty interesting, and then they would just follow you around wherever you go, whatever machine that you happen to land on. Anything else you guys want to talk about as far as lessons learned?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Any more questions? We have possibly some answers. Okay.